Hey guys, you're very welcome to the Craic Rambles podcast. I'm your host, Mr. C to the R to the A to the I to the C, aka Crack Boy Mental / Comrade Crack. And this is actually my third attempt at a podcast. I seem to, like a football major championship, every 2 years get the notion in my head that I want to take over the podcast game. Like I've taken over the autistic, left-wing, socialist rap game. But I think this time I'm going to properly dedicate myself to this podcast. I'm going to do one every Wednesday up until Christmas. So that would be 15 episodes. So will you listen in every week, guys? And we'll see how this works out. If in January I'll reassess how the podcast is going, if it's shit. If it's boring, I'll just stop. But at the very least, we should get a good few viral clips from this podcast because I tend to have very out there opinions, such opinions as I think trans people should be allowed to exist without being harassed and abused. I also think that it's just common courtesy not to use problematic slurs. So I have a lot of radical left-wing opinions that upset a certain demographic online, a certain older demographic of the male species online, who tend to be a bit of the right persuasion. So let's see how many people we can piss off with this podcast. But regardless, I think it's kind of natural order for me as a white guy entering my 30s to start a podcast. It's kind of like women, how they enter menopause in their late 40s, early 50s. White guys, we end up getting, this gravitational pull to start a podcast once we enter that age 30. And it's a silent epidemic that no one wants to talk about. Like I hear people talking about vaccines, but something that the right-wingers haven't quite caught on to is the white guys doing podcast virus. It's very serious. A lot of trash has ended up online due to it being unchecked. So check on your local white guy in your community and make sure he's not starting a podcast spreading misinformation because it's can be very troubling and traumatic for the listener. But anyway, what I want to talk about in this podcast is just how I'm kind of over making music. I don't know what it is. I think I just lost the passion for making music. I mean, I could sit here for 4 hours and talk how bitter I am about this individual and that individual and this person blackballed me. But in the end, it's kind of like I didn't fit what the music industry wanted. I didn't fit what the Irish media were trying to promote at the time. So my music career it's kind of just fell away, and I've kind of made peace with it. I put a lot of effort into my album Autistic Legend 2 last year, and though it got a lot of positive reviews, it didn't really seem to gain traction like my past work, which was quite frustrating considering the amount of effort and how high quality my last album was compared to some of my past projects, newer wavy. I kind of just had to recognize that maybe me and music, maybe it's done. This was the first summer in about maybe 6 or 7 years, that of course COVID as well, where I didn't do any gigs. And I didn't really feel like I was missing out on anything either. I've always enjoyed performing, but I'm not one of those people that, I feel like it's my passion. Like I need to be up on stage at least once or twice a month or something's missing. No, it's like the money was there, so I'd perform. And I felt like I gave a lot of good performances throughout the years once the sound quality was correct. But I just feel at this stage of my life, when you enter your 30s, we're going back to the 30s again, it's kind of hard to justify chasing a passion project, which is music, once you enter 30. Now, if I was properly funded by the Irish government, like I should be, like lesser artists who have achieved lesser things than I are being funded, then I might continue making music. But no, there's no incentive for me to make music anymore, and I've lost the passion for it. So podcasting and niche content creation is what it is for the moment. Yeah, so with this podcast, basically, as I said, I'll do it once a week. It's going to be me rambling a lot, as you can probably already tell from the last 5 minutes. I just ramble, say wild things. Well, not purposely wild things, but things that I feel are perfectly fair, but people online perceive to be quite wild, quite radical. I feel, I was thinking the other day, it's so funny how, like, right-wingers just have no shame. Like, even looking at the Ayman Khalif situation over the summer, how you have someone who was born female. She had an XY chromosome. Fine. That like loads of people have that. There's different syndromes. I know there's a Klinefelter syndrome for men, where they might have female cells, but they're still men, And there's Turner syndrome for women. They're still women just because they have abnormal cells that are of the male, that are male XY. But seeing how, like, a woman having an XY cell turned into her being a biological born male by right-wingers online just shows you that we have reached peak age of misinformation online. I've been a victim of this loads of times, by the way. A few cases going on in the background where I've been the victim of misinformation, which I might get into at a certain stage on this podcast. But yeah, it's just rife online. And Elon Musk, a clown who's like lost Twitter like 800% of its profit, he's pretty much just let Twitter be, whatever it wants to be. There's people can just go online now, and he even backed up the statement that Ayman Khalif was a biological male when she was in fact a biological female. And the Italian girl, maybe she needs to try another sport, because getting boxed in the face, that's kind of what happens in boxing. You see, like, people took that as though Ayman Khalif was just walking down the street, and the Italian girl just turned and got punched in the face. But she was in a boxing ring. And Kelly Harrington, who has said problematic things, I gotta get that in there because people will attack me otherwise. Kelly Harrington, who said problematic things in the past, she defeated Ayman Khalif at the last Olympics, and there wasn't a word about gender. But I think that shows you how bad things have gotten in the last 3 years online. Like, there was a time where, things were always wild online, where trolls would always just say whatever. But it's kind of gotten to the stage now where, like, I don't know how much further it can head. It kind of reminds me of hip-hop a bit, like hip-hop back in 2015, when you had Tekashi 6ix9ine and stuff. It got so wild, and, the envelope got pushed so far that, like, hip-hop has kind of, like, not had the same buzz in about 10 years. Like, you can only go so extreme before, something becomes shit and becomes watered down. And that's what happened online. Like, online opinions now, right-wing, are just so stupid and so out of touch, and people just saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff. It's just, I don't know, I try and limit the amount of hours I spend online nowadays, because it's just not good for the head. Like, even when I click on to Twitter or X, I'm calling it Twitter. Fuck you, Elon Musk. I'm calling it Twitter. No one gives a shit about X. But when I log into X, like, I feel like I'm going to turn trans, because the amount of, like, emotion, amount of estrogen I'm filled with from right-wingers just upset about nonsense and just making up complete bullshit. The amount of that just enters my fucking grey matter in my brain when I open up my phone on the X app, it's going to turn me trans. So, if right-wingers want less trans people, what you need to do is stop spreading so much misinformation and stop going around harassing people and acting like, an emotional fucking 6-year-old girl. Because you're making Twitter just look like a fucking mental asylum. And no, before you cancel me for that, shout to everyone in the mental asylum. But I'm saying, people need help in there. And what I'm seeing on Twitter with all them right-wingers, they're not getting the help. They're being enabled by Daddy Elon Musk to say what the fuck they want. So yeah, fuck Elon Musk, fuck the right-wingers, and fuck X. But anyway, if you're enjoying this rambling, I got a Patreon called Craic Rambles. Right now I don't have any ads on these shows yet because you need to do a few shows and show that a couple thousand will actually listen to you. So right now I don't have any ads on the show. But if you want to support me, whether it's this podcast or whether it's the content creation I do, go on to the Patreon, Craic Rambles, throw in €2, I'd appreciate it because, you think about 50 people donated €2. That would be €100 a month. Now, that's not the only income I make off what I do, but it would help. It would help. An extra 100 a month would help me stay motivated for this podcast. So if you like what I do, if you want to see me stay online, continuing doing this, calling out right-wingers, donate to the Patreon. It got me thinking, like, a lot of people, they don't really like to invest in autistic people. I see even online, right now, I'll tell you what online culture is and what online humor is. Basically, it's people laughing at neurodivergent people acting neurodivergent. That's what online humor space is nowadays. And when I was looking at that, I was kind of like, oh, I'm neurodivergent. I can play up the neurodivergentism and I can actually profit off it. Because the difference between me and the unfortunate young kids that get the BJs mocked out of them online and, just get manipulated online is they don't have the life experience to properly, utilize the internet and make the traction they gain from their neurodivergentism into a steady income. So I wish I should actually start doing classes, TED Talks for neurodivergent influencers, because there's a lot of money to be gained out there, and people love laughing at neurodivergent people, but I think their laughs are a lot easier to take when they're putting money in your back pocket. So yeah, I think I might start. I need to start advising some of these young up and coming, like Joshua Block and Cal the Dragon. I need to start advising them how to turn it into making money. Their ridicule, turn it into a steady income. Because as I said, internet culture, it's basically just, haha, look at this neurodivergent person. That, and it's bald guys with dodgy pyramid schemes giving young males life advice that would have served them well in the 1600s. That's pretty much the internet nowadays. Complete shite. So as I said, this summer I've kind of made an effort to just stay away from the online world. Just go out in nature, go for a walk, even playing PlayStation or whatever. Better than fucking being online scrolling nonsense. So that's what I've done this summer. I've moved house, I've been doing a lot this summer. Just trying to keep my brain active. I think that's an important thing for neurodivergent people as well, to always keep the brain active. Always try and do constructive things that'll kind of help you money-wise, mental health-wise, more importantly, because you could be the richest man in the world and still be miserable. But that's what I've been trying to do this summer. I think as I get older, I think my frontal lobe, do men have that, or is it just a women thing? My frontal lobe has developed in the last few years. So I kind of now see things from a wiser state, from a more mature mind state. I see things. I see ghosts. I'm playing with you. But you see a clip like that will go viral. So that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast too. I'm trying to give you a serious podcast with a serious message and try to uplift you, but also go viral at the same time. So if you know my shtick, you know my shtick by now. But it's always all love. You know, I see a few people online, they'd be like, oh, Craic boy's just, satiring left-wing people. No, first off, I wouldn't satire left-wing people because from my experience, most leftists, they actually think with their brain. Whereas most right-wingers, they think emotionally. So if I post a video saying, I just cut off my 70-year-old Uncle Ron because he said there were two genders, they'll jump at it and be like, what? You cut off your uncle for some online value? They jump at it because they think with emotion. Whereas I think most left-wingers, they kind of have... And you see with a lot of left-wingers, they tend to be non-binary or, people of colour because they have trauma, which makes them actually look at every situation, logically. Whereas right-wingers, they don't get it. They just don't get it. That's why they're so easily manipulated online and why they fall for so much misinformation and why they're right-wing in the first place. So, I do think left-wingers are smarter than right-wingers. You heard that here. You can clip that and roast me for my opinion on that. But that's something I'm standing by. Right-wingers tick, left-wingers genius. And I'm left-wing. I'll joke around online. And, sometimes, hey, if I say something that like a marginalised group of people, or I make a joke that a marginalised group of people think is offensive and they call me out for it, I'll take down the video. It's no problem, but for the most part, I tend to get it right because I've been on the internet long enough that I know what's kind of funny and what's crossing the line and what's not crossing the line. So I just get it right. Not everybody can copy my content and do it well. A few have tried and failed miserably because they just don't have the knack for it, and they just don't have the strong political beliefs that I do underneath the jokes and comedy that I put online. But as far as like music, because that's what this podcast is about. Why I quit music. You're probably like, what? Why is that the title? And he's barely touched on it. Basically, like music. I tried to come back this year. I said I was going to come back as Nart, a new name, which is the Irish for strength. And every time I try and make a song, I was like, this ain't it. This is not it. I'm trying too hard. This is shit. And it's also like, even if I did come back with music, it's like I put 10 years in, but it feels like if I came back, none of the music blogs would cover it. Nobody would give me a gig off it. So it's kind of like, whatever, I was never the industry faves in Ireland. And in Ireland, everything is, you have to be a part of a clique. You have to be, the autism as well gets in the way. You have to make the right connections, kiss the right ass. Whereas I'm just too blunt. I burn too many bridges, so that's why the music career is done. But I'm still proud of all the work I did do. Although some of the songs about potatoes and polos, when I was performing them last year at the Barras, a club in West Cork. Where's the club? It's a pub in West Cork. Shout out to Ray. I was performing and I was kind of like, performing these songs feels lame now. Like, this was 2023 last year. Performing these songs feel lame in a way that they didn't in the past. And I guess that's what happens when you make novelty songs, which, and here's the thing as well. Just because I call them novelty songs doesn't mean that I don't think that those songs still didn't have power. You got a couple like music nerds online that like act as though every piece of music needs to be deep. And needs to be, needs to be some music perfection. You need to strive to make the most technically proficient art that you can. But like a song like Polos, right? Simple song. A song like Polos is life. Simple song, simple beat that I made. Obviously you have to have an ear to make a beat like that, which people underappreciate. But simple beat I made, simple lyrics, of course. Quite a dumb song. But that song is somebody's like last memory with their father, you know? Like music is deeper than, you know, just the technical aspect of it. That's what people never understood about my music either. Even a song like Trans People Are My Friends. Very simple song, but it's the message behind it, you know? I think it's because neurodivergence as well, that people just zoom in on the negative aspects of what I do musically in a way that they don't on others. Like even I look at Kneecap now and what they're achieving. What they've achieved. Every time I see a picture of them online, it's like there's an extra 100,000 they're performing in front of. But like, as a lifelong hip-hop fan, sonically their music is, you know, it's decent, but it's not to the quality that like the top Irish hip-hop is. But still they're huge because of the message, because they represent the Gaeilge, they represent the North, they represent Palestine, you know, and that's why they're huge. So like your music doesn't have to be the most amazing thing ever for you to be allowed to have a music career. But I wasn't allowed that, even though, you know, I went to the States and packed out every venue with like 2 days notice, packed out New York, packed out Chicago, packed out Boston. You know, I wasn't allowed to have a music career because, I don't know, guess I didn't kiss the right ass, but I'm not bitter on it. I've learned in life, if you're bitter on stuff, if you're constantly looking back, you won't move forward. You know, and that sounds corny, but it is the reality. Like you have to keep your headspace positive. You have to keep it productive. You have to keep it in a place that's going to, you know, a place that's going to end up being positive for you, instead of like letting other people dictate your happiness, because otherwise you'll end up being miserable. That's why even when I was making music and I'd look at like people in Irish hip hop, and you'd have people, DJs and stuff, and promoters that have been around the scene for like 30 years. They're miserable. Everything they post, misery. You know, and it's kind of like, I don't want to still be like involved in Irish hip hop in 20 years and just be the miserable guy like, oh, the new ones aren't doing it like the old ones. You know, I don't want to be one of them people. Like, I'd rather just go off and do something that makes me happy, like, you know. So I've always loved making hip hop, and like producing was always the thing that I liked more than anything. I think as a producer I'm very underappreciated, you know. Like, if you had a piano player as talented as I was at making beats, you'd be seeing him as a fucking icon. But because people don't really appreciate production, and they don't appreciate that it actually takes a knack to make catchy songs, you know. There's some people, they can give you bars for days, can't write a song to save their life, you know. And I could make multiple songs, but I kind of lost the edge for that as well, because that's something that you kind of have to have, you know. That's something that you have to keep doing every day, repetition, to be able to make catchy songs. But yeah, I've kind of lost the edge with that, so that's why I'm kind of done with music as well. I don't really think I have it anymore. But I'm appreciative for everything I achieved in music, appreciative of everybody that came out to a gig, that bought the album on Bandcamp, you know, everybody that showed love, everybody that showed support. It was a fun journey. And you know what? I'm saying all this now, but next year I could turn around and just get inspired to make an album again. So we'll never say never, but for the moment, I'm done with music, and I'm glad I did it. But yeah, guys, this has been the first episode of Craic Rambles. Hope you're enjoying this episode. As I said, sign up to the Patreon in the bio. I'm going to keep doing these every Wednesday, and I'll just touch on topics that are popular for that week. Might touch on other topics like small town syndrome in Ireland, and, you know, other things about what Ireland is like today. I know I have a lot of international fans and viewers, so maybe I can give ye some insight into what Ireland is like today. And just touch on, you know, I like roasting right-wingers. It's fun to just like sit back and, you know, watch what right-wingers are doing for the week, and just, you know, pick apart the ridiculousness. But yeah, guys, again, thanks for tuning in. Tell a friend. Tell everybody about the Craic Rambles show. Tell them how awesome it is. Tell them how shit it is, Just whatever. Get them to listen. Get them to watch. And appreciate you tuning in.